Hello, and welcome. Today, we are going to do something unusual. We are going to sit with just 2 verses. Not a chapter. Not a book. Just 2 verses. The very first 2 verses of the Bible. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and chapter 1 verse 2. They are small, but they contain the entire story of the cosmos. They speak of creation, destruction, and the quiet preparation for something new. But to understand them, we need to ask the right questions. And we need to see who is actually doing the work. So, let us begin. Let me read the text first, just as it appears in most Bibles. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Now, my first question is this: who is this God in verse 1? And what is his duty?
That is the perfect place to start. The Hebrew word for God here is Elohim. It is a majestic, plural noun, speaking of infinite power and sovereignty. But it is not a name, it is a title. It tells us that the one who acts here is the supreme being, the ultimate authority. But we cannot stop there. The New Testament reveals something deeper. In John chapter 1 verses 1 to 3, we read, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made." And in Colossians chapter 1 verse 16, "For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible."
So, you are saying that the God of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 is actually doing something through someone else?
Exactly. We see a beautiful division of roles. God the Father is the architect, the author, the designer. He conceives the plan. He holds the eternal blueprint. He is the sovereign who decides that a universe will exist. God the Son, Jesus Christ, is the creator, the executor, the master craftsman. He is the active agent who brings the Father's plan into physical reality. The Father designs. The Son builds. They are distinct in role, but perfectly united in purpose.
So, when Genesis 1 verse 1 says God created, it is the Father authorizing it and the Son doing the actual work?
Precisely. The Father is the architect. Jesus is the builder. One God, 2 distinct roles, working in perfect harmony.
That is fascinating. But let us look at the word created. What does that actually mean in the original Hebrew?
The Hebrew word is bara. And this is crucial. This verb is used exclusively for divine action in the Old Testament. Human beings never bara something. It means to bring something into existence that did not exist before. Or, to produce something entirely new that has no prior form. When God bara the heavens and the earth, he was not tinkering with existing matter. He was originating the very fabric of space, time, and matter.
So, the original creation was not flawed. It was not chaotic. It was a finished work.
Exactly. The original creation was perfect and complete, reflecting the glory of its designer and the skill of its maker. But then, something happened.
That leads me to verse 2. The text says, "Now the earth was formless and void." That sounds like a starting point, like raw material. But you are suggesting it is not.
You are picking up on a critical nuance. In English, it looks like a simple statement of fact. But in Hebrew, the grammar tells a different story. The word for was in verse 2 is heida. It does not mean was in a static sense. It means had become or came to be. Furthermore, the word now at the start is a disjunctive vav. In Hebrew, this means but or however. It introduces a contrast. So, a much more literal reading of verse 2 is, "But the earth had become a waste and a desolation."
Wait, so you were telling me that the earth did not start as a formless void? It became a formless void?
Exactly. Verse 1 describes a perfect, finished creation. Verse 2 describes what that creation turned into. It describes a ruin.
That changes everything. So, what happened? What caused this ruin?
The text does not tell us in these two verses. But the language it uses gives us a strong clue.
The text says formless and void. What does that actually mean in Hebrew?
The Hebrew is Tohu Wabohu. This phrase appears only twice elsewhere in the Bible, in Isaiah chapter 34 verse 11 and Jeremiah chapter 4 verse 23. In both places, it describes a land that has been judged and cursed. It is the language of a battlefield, not a nursery. It is the language of destruction, not raw material.
So, this is not a neutral state. This is a state of divine judgment.
Precisely. And then the text adds, darkness was over the surface of the deep. The deep is the Tiham, the primordial, surging ocean. But there is no sunlight here. Without sunlight, there is no photosynthesis. Without photosynthesis, there is no oxygen.
So, the earth is covered in a dark, lifeless, anoxic sea.
Yes. This is not a place where life can thrive. This is a dead planet. A graveyard.
A graveyard of what?
Of whatever existed in that prior world. The fossils, the oil, the coal, the minerals we mine today, they are the physical remnants of that ancient age. They were buried and compressed during the cataclysm that ended that world.
That is a sobering picture. But the verse does not end with darkness and death. It says, "And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters." What is the Spirit doing here?
The Hebrew word for hovering is merachephet. This verb appears only 3 times in the Bible. Here, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. In Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 11, where an eagle hovers over its young. In Isaiah chapter 31 verse 5, where God hovers over Jerusalem to protect it. In every case, it implies an active, nurturing, protective movement. It is the image of a mother bird brooding over her eggs, keeping them warm, guarding them, preparing them for life.
So, the Spirit is not fighting the chaos. He is preparing it.
Exactly. The Spirit is subduing the chaos. He is fostering it. He is making the dead, dark waters ready to receive the creative word that is about to be spoken.
So, in this moment, we have the Father who authored the judgment, the Spirit who is preparing the chaos, and
the Son, Jesus, who is waiting to speak the new creation into being.
Let me summarize this to make sure I understand correctly. Who is doing what in these 2 verses?
Let me lay it out clearly. The first person is the God the Father. The role is architect, author, and designer. The action is conceives the plan, authors the original creation, ordains the judgment. He holds the eternal blueprint. The second person is the God the Son or Jesus. The role is creator, executor, and master craftsman. The action is actively creates the heavens and earth, upholds the cosmos even in its fallen state, will speak the new creation into being. The third person is the God the Holy Spirit. The role is sustainer, nurturer, and life-giver. The action is hovers over the chaos, prepares the dead planet to receive the new creative word.
So, the Father designs, the Son builds, and the Spirit prepares.
Exactly. One God, 3 persons, working in perfect harmony.
And the chaos in verse 2 is not a starting point. It is the aftermath of something older.
Precisely. The darkness and the deep are not beginning points, They are the graveyard of a prior world. And into that graveyard, the Spirit broods, waiting for the Father to speak and the Son to act.
This is remarkable. These 2 verses, which I have read so many times, are actually a doorway into a much larger story.
They are the prologue to the greatest drama ever told. They reveal a God who is not a passive observer, but a purposeful architect. They reveal a Son who is not a separate deity, but the very hands and voice of the Father, bringing divine plans into physical reality.
So, what do we take away from this?
We take away this: the earth was created perfectly by the Father's design and the Son's hand. It fell into ruin through a divine judgment. The Spirit hovers over the chaos, not in anger, but in preparation. And the Creator, Jesus Christ, is waiting to speak again.
To speak what?
The same word he spoke at the beginning. The word that brings light out of darkness, order out of chaos, and life out of death.
That is the story of Genesis chapter 1 verses 1 to 2.
It is the story of our God, the architect, the Creator, and the life-giver.
Thank you for walking us through these 2 verses. It has been an eye-opening journey.
You are most welcome. And to every listener, may you see the earth not merely as a physical planet, but as a stage for the divine drama. May you see the Father as the architect, the Son as the Creator, and the Spirit as the life-giver. And may you rest in the knowledge that the God who created the heavens and the earth is also the God who restores, redeems, and makes all things new.
Presented by Reverend Dr. Boaz Koch. Thank you for listening.